Hello everyone. So welcome to the next session in our monthly current affairs series, and today we'll be discussing something related to the defense. Defense may just like I've given some brief like 30 seconds idea and defense also. So defense is basically is your internal security vis-a-vis mains exam, and with respect to your prelims examination, defense is basically exercises the missiles or the equipments that are in the news and the government initiative with respect to the defense or the internal security. For prelims perspective, these things are not very attractive, as in these are attractive but they may not translate into the actual UPSC questions, because UPSC, as you have seen, the current affairs are getting a bit different in their direction. But still, these are the common basic minimum that we have to prepare. This much has to be prepared, and easy way as well. One of the easiest way to do prepare all the missiles and all these things is through frameworks, the big picture stuff. So the diagrams and everything, gives you a good idea about the things. For example, in the next session we'll talk about the submarines. In the November month current affair, we'll talk about the submarines. Then later on in one session I'll talk in detail about the all the missiles. We have actually done that in the previous year. We'll reiterate that and adding the current affairs of this particular month or this particular year. So be ready with respect to those frameworks. Those will be very handy. Let's start. First, the internal security situation. So we take up basically one topic from the mains and we discuss about it. So the first one of the topic that is there in your main syllabus, that is the border management. Because in defense we don't have that much content as we have in the IR or like economy or ecology or polity. Hence I try to diversify, discuss one topic or some framework with respect to the internal security. In the current affair also, you can see 22 October. So more power, smart border fences, army prepares new blueprint to stop infiltration along the LOC. So they want to create these smart fences. What are these smart fence? So smart fence is basically just like the small smart classes are a integration of the offline and the online, right? Similarly, with respect to the fences, it is a manpower, human beings, as well as the use of the an optimum and the viable use of the technology in the border management. If we talk about the overarching border management, there is an important topic in your internal security situation, which also relatively common with respect to, which finds some common grounds with respect to international affair, that is border management. So basically, there are three things, three framework you can see, whether you talk about the challenges or whether you talk about the way forward with respect to the border management. So with respect to first is the nature of terrain or the border. For example, India Myanmar border is very forested. India Pakistan border, that is the your Gujarat area and Rajasthan area. So that area is a bit marshy in the nature or disputed nature. India China border disputes are there, like that. India Sri Lanka border, that is maritime border, is there. India Nepal border, that is the some historical legacy or colonial legacy is there, right? So different kinds of border is there, different kinds of terrain is there. India Nepal simple terrain, India Myanmar forested terrain, India China Himalayan terrain. So different kinds of terrain that presents different kinds of challenges. Then the internal security challenge on both the sides and the development challenge. Obviously, one of the major reason of the internal security situation in Northeast and the Kashmir is basically because of the developmental deficit that is there in these regions. Secondly, the internal security situation of both the sides. For example, what about the what is happening in Pakistan? So that also important, that is for border management. If the internal security of the country from or the other side is relatively at peace, then you won't require a lot of border fences. For example, US and Canada, if you have peace here, then there is no requirement of border management a lot, right? These are open borders. So this is the way. Then the capacity building of the border forces and issue related with them. For example, issues related to Assam rifle we have seen last time, right? The dual control and lack of clarity of strategic objectives and dual control, dual responsibility. So this is again a problem. Assam rifle and the issues with the other paramilitary force or the issues with the army, that is army modernization and the other things. So this is all these three frameworks. If you have to write the challenges in the border management, again these three framework. And even if you have to write the solutions or the way forward, that can be done, or the steps that can be taken, that can also be the framework again. For example, let's say if we talk about the what we're going to read today, it's sims, that is comprehensive integrated water management system, right? So if we talk about that, that would be under the, let's say, capacity building of the border forces, or solution to the nature of the terrain. In both you can put. Why? Because let's say a terrain is not good for, let's say, presence of the human, so you can have the technology presenting the guarding the fences. So these are the known as the smart fences, right? So this is the idea with respect to the border management. Now let's come to the fact that we have to discuss, that is sims, that is comprehensive integrated management system. No, it's not a current affair. It was recommended way back by Madhukar Gupta committee, that we need to have some system, and obviously the system is evolving. Now they're putting, for example, we have discussed that along the loc here, army is taking up the projects and all these things. So the idea is comprehensive integrated border management system. It has few components, that is concept of the integration of the manpower, sensors, command and control center to improve the situational awareness and facilitate quick response to emerging situations. So basically combining manpower, some manpower needs to be there, human, then some sensors will be there. Human means security forces, them sensors will be there, and then there will be command and control center that will take up the data from the sensors, and it will create some um, basically actionable intelligence. So it will create some intelligence, okay, this is infiltration is going on or something like that. So smart fencing is a web of surveillance and communication data storage device. It will enable surveillance during the difficult weather situation. No need reduce the need of the physical patrolling. It will rely on the thermal imaging, infrared, laser based intruder alarm to stop infiltration. The fences will integrated with lidar technology. Lidar technology will discuss in detail in science and tech. So lidar technology is there, very important with respect to your mains as well in science and tech and prelims both. Light detection and ranging sensors, infrared sensor and cameras will be there, and this will be there. Eventually, initially implemented to cover the gaps in the physical fencing, and ultimately it will be done for the whole border sector. Tick. Electronic surveillance program in the Assam, a riverine and the Hairi Forest stretch along the Bangladesh border has been taken up. So this is your SIMS. Within SIMS, one project that is there, that is known as Bold Quit. That is border electronically dominated QRT interception technique. What you have to remember, that is Bold Quit. What is this? It's a system which is placed, which is under the overarching agenda of the SIMS. SIMS is under the overarching agenda of the border management and the use of the technology, or to create the smart fences. So smart fencing will be operational in 61-kilometer riverine stretch of the international border in the Dhubri district in Assam, where the Brahmaputra river entered into the Bangladesh in order to check the illegal immigration, smuggling, and all these things. So this is your SIMS. Now that is the use of technology into the border management. Now think yourself, what will be the, if we talk from the main perspective very quickly. So what will be the use of it? Now you got the factual information. What will be the use of the technology? That's the, these are the points. So coordinating with the human power, जो manpower में shortage है, for example, let's say government does not want a lot of revenue deficit, or there are less human resources present. So that can be plugged with the technology can work in different terrains. We can give some rest to the human beings also. So from that point of view, it's good. It will be also creating a lot of data generation. So over the years, we can see by how much improvement has been done in the internal security situation, or with respect to installation of technology, how much improvement we can see year on year or quarter on quarter, like that. So this will be the help of the technology. Now, next is cyber security. One fact that we have to discuss, that is the real mango. What is the real mango? So basically, it was I hope majority of you must have booked a Trican on IRCTC, right? Especially with respect to Tatkal. So what this basically software does, it basically bypasses the CAPTCHA, right? That you have to enter before going into the booking of the ticket. So what these people used to do, especially the your agents and all this, they use this software to book as many tickets as possible from the IRCTC website. So booking the railway ticket booking at a fly speed. So when they do that, it will create artificial scarcity. Then they will do the black marketing and all these things of the ticket. So they have found this Railway protection force has found this, that what these people are doing, and obviously this is again one of the cyber security threat that is there. So it's an example that you can use also. So Real Mango is a legal software for cornering the confirmed railway reservations, so related to the railways. Something with respect to this, that is railway protection force. So railway protection force is basically a force which is within the railways. So established by Railway Protection Act of 1957, the objective is to the better protection and the security of railway property and the passenger arena. Then in order, it has the power to search, arrest, investigate and prosecute offence committed under the Railways Property Act and the Railways Act and the Railways Property Act. So this is your RPF. But there is a confusion between the RPF, that is Railway Protection Force, and the Government Railway Police, GRP. RPF versus the GRP. Now, GRP is basically it is related to law and order and policing on the railways, including the trains, is the responsibility of GRP. Now, obviously, you can see the conflict coming here. One is RPF, one is GRP. So, dual responsibility. When it's a responsibility of many, it is responsibility of none. So that's the idea. However, the power of arrest with the other penal laws. So it has the power to arrest under these laws, Railway Property and the Railways Act. But it does not have the power to arrest under the other penal laws. That is in the hands of the Government Railway Police. Right? GRP inquires into the accident on the railways. It renders assistance to the railway officer. So it works under the state government. It is a part of the state police, right? And this is the part of the railways. That is why one of the committees that was set up for the rationalization of the railways, that was Vivek Debroy committee, and they said that railway should not abandon this RPF. Every function should be given to this GRP itself, or RPF ko GRP mein merge kar do and give it to the state police. Why? The railway has the business to do all these things. For that we have the state police, and that is why you will have that scenario, for example, where the commuters will be having a problem. Because for a person, if he is facing some problem, let's say he is facing a law and order problem, right, then he should approach whom? He does not know the difference between RPF and GRP. Many of the students who are watching this video may not know the difference between RPF and GRP before this session. Many of you may know the difference between RPF and GRP. Sorry. Sorry. But sorry, it's still winter in the north, right? Sorry. So a lot of you may have gone to railway station many of times, but may not have noticed the difference between RPF and the GRP, right? So this is the problem. The duties and the responsibilities of the two agencies are very clear and defined according to the officials. You can see officials are saying so. While GRP is responsible for the railway crimes, RPF is to guard and protect the railway property. But the most commuters do not understand the demarcation and usually face problem when they approach either of the agencies to file the complaint. One agency say, no, it's not my work. The other agency will say, no, it's not my work. So that is the problem. So again, a good example of the overlapping governance. Chalo, let us see some exercises that's been conducted. First one is SlyNex. So from the name itself, Sri Lanka, India, that is exercise, right? It's a Navy exercise. India, Sri Lanka, Navy exercise. The other exercise that conduct between India and Sri Lanka is Mitra Shakti, ILN, SF exercise, and Samvedana. So Samvedana ko yaad rakhna hai. It is more important. Later on, very quickly, from the next session itself, we'll try to give you one framework also for these exercises, so that under which heading these exercises are coming, Navy, neighborhood, like that, so that it becomes easy for us also to remember and recall. Next is exercise Bongo Sagar. Sorry, the exercise name is Bongo Sagar. So the bilateral naval exercise between India and Bangladesh, the exercise name is Bongo Sagar. From the name itself, Bongo Sagar, that is Bengal Sagar. So you can imagine India and the Bangladesh. So it's a naval exercise between India and Bangladesh. That's all we need to remember. Then it will be followed by Corpet, and then we will discuss about Corpet as well in detail later on. Then Malabar naval exercise, very important. In fact, This time in the IR, we talked about the Quad, right? We talked about the Quad, we talked about the Indo-Pacific. So as to operationalize the idea of the Quad, that is the Quad plus or Quad 2 plus 2, right? Getting the strategic and the foreign affairs together of the Quad people for the country. So it is one of the exercises which is now being conducted with all the four members. So consisting India, Japan, USA to be held next month, and Australia will join. So earlier India, Japan, and US used to done, and now Australia has also entered. So all the Quad countries are in this Malabar exercise. Okay, chalo. So it was conducted in the November month. In the October month, it was decided that all the countries will come together, and the November, you can see 17 November date. That is, it was conducted in the November month. That is Malabar Naval Exercise. Then some equipment that we have to study. The first one, that is the Harpoon Coastal Defense System. Just like a question has come, that is third, not related to India, but what US has installed into the Korea, South Korea. Right. Similarly, Harpoon Coastal Defense System, US has decided to sell this Harpoon defense system to Taiwan. So not related to India, but in international news, important one. And all weather over the horizon anti-ship missile, especially such terms, Harpoon, THAAD, these terms we need to remember ki bhai, in which context we are using it, especially related to Taiwan and some tension with respect to China. So it becomes important for us also in a way. Don't have to remember developed by whom, right? So just remember it's a defense system that is given to Taiwan by the USA. That's all will be required for prelims perspective. Next is INS Sindhuvir. So India for the first time has given one submarine to Myanmar. It is Myanmar's first submarine. So it is overarching agenda of the neighborhood first is strengthening the strategic relationship between India and the Myanmar. This is INS Sindhuvir. Okay. So it is a Kilo class submarine. It's a Kilo class submarine. What do you mean by Kilo class? Kilo class is a diesel electric attack submarine that were designed and built in the erstwhile Soviet Union. So earlier it was designed in the Soviet Union, then the Soviet Union retired, but given to India. India is using, now India is given to the Myanmar, obviously through manufacture and everything. So it's a NS diesel electric submarine. India has also talk of supplying military hardware to Myanmar, including artillery guns, ammunition, and sonar. So basically, the idea is that why the Modi's neighborhood first is different from Gujarat doctrines. Gujarat doctrine. So neighborhood first has a very important important component of that is the strategic purchase, the strategic help, or the strategic dimension, security dimension. So this is all the part of that. So apart from the economic assistance and development and all these things, we also need to build a strategic network. It is also the part of India to export its defense equipments to the other nation. Okay. So first submarine of the Myanmar Navy. This is INS Sindhuvir. In Myanmar, it is known as the UMS Minge Thing Ing Thatu. It's a difficult name, but just remember that this is the name given by the Myanmar. It's the first and the only submarine in the Myanmar Navy, and it has been inducted in the has been commissioned along with this on the 24th December 2020, given by India in the October month. Chalo. Next is INS Kavarati. INS Kavarati is basically what it is. A few keywords: anti-submarine warfare, stealth, and corvettes. So what does the three mean? First is name anti-submarine warfare. Anti-submarine means, so this is on surface INS Kavarati. So submarine is going from here. So it knows for sonar and other equipments, it will know that this submarine is going on, and anti-submarine, it will attack this submarine. So whenever there is a naval war, so in that this will be handy. Next is stealth. That means the presence of this is also very not able to understand or not able to identify, or radars are not able to identify this. So that is known as the stealth. Next is corvette. So what are these corvette? These are basically the smallest warship. So it is a warship, but of the smallest size. That is known as the corvette. So traditionally is the smallest class of the vessel considered to be a proper warship. So you can say it's a warship, but it's a very small warship. So that is known as the INS Kavarati. So it is the last of the four indigenously built anti-submarine warfare stealth corvettes built under the Project 28, by the Garden Reach Shipbuilding and Engineers in the Kolkata. So some data that you have to remember, that is made by the Garden Reach Shipbuilding and Engineers, something like that, from Kolkata. It's under the project 28, known as the Coma Kamrota class. अच्छा, how these classes come up कि इस class की है. So the class is basically the name of the first one that is made. For example, this Kilo class must have been the first submarine which was built in this range, that is from the USSR. Actually, Kilo is the name given by the NATO to the submarines built by the USSR. And now we are using the same name given by the NATO to the USSR submarine, which is given to India, then India to Myanmar, INS Sindhuvir. And this is INS Kamrota. So you can see INS Kavarati, that is the October 2020. So you can get one question, that is Kamrota, Kadmat, Kiltan, and Kavarati. What are these things? So what are these things? These are the your anti-submarine stealth corvette. That's all you need to remember. And these are indigenously built. So from that perspective, this is important. ठीक है. एंड ऐसे ही बहुत सारे हैं, ऐसे 3 to 4 like that. So उसको भी you need to prepare it under a bit of framework. चलो. The last one, that is the some government initiative that we have to read, starting with the first one, that is Defense Acquisition Council. In the last month, we talked in detail about this defense acquisition procedure, and now it has replaced the defense procurement procedure of 2016. We have discussed in detail based upon the Apurva Chandra Committee's recommendation and what we have discussed. Defense Acquisition Council is the body which basically approves it. So this is known as the Defense Acquisition Council. It is headed by the Defense Minister. So is responsible to give the policies, guidelines to acquisition based upon the long-term procurement plans. It clears all acquisitions, which include all imported and those produced indigenously or under a foreign license. It was formed after the group of ministers' recommendations post the National Security, post Kargil Committee. Okay. Kargil War Committee, that is Defense Acquisition Council. Next is Defense India Startup Challenge. So this is the Defense India Startup Challenge from the name itself. Defense India Startup Challenge, so startup in the field of defense. Initiative to develop effective defense startup in the country. So Defense Ministry in partnership with the Atal Innovation Mission to support MSME startups, innovators to create prototypes, commercializing solutions and products in the area of the national security and defense. So this is your Defense India startup. So with this, we finished today's session. Today, in essence, we talked about, and first we started our discussion based upon the idea of the use of technology in the defense. Then we talked about the exercises. Then we talked about INS Sindhuvir, right? Then we talked about some government initiatives, right? Kamrota class we have discussed. So these 4 names, yaad rakhna. So that's all with respect to defense. The next session will take up of polity. Okay? So defense is done, polity is done, and very quickly we'll be finishing the October month's current affair. Till then, bye-bye. Thank you, everyone. See you in the next class.